is Sharon Doss, and I am the Director of Programs and Professional Development for the Detroit Chapter of BDPA. And we are thrilled to have all of you here with us this evening at our information exchange. We have a very exciting speaker, a very exciting speaker on a very interesting topic. I'm fascinated to find out how we ended up with so many men tonight. So it's kind of a little bit unusual in terms of the demographics of our meeting, but it's cool. It's really cool, so I can't wait to see how that came about. This is Cliff Samuels Jr.
Well, currently I'm the Director of Technology Automation, so I'm head of all the geeks. So anything we geek, I handle.
But I want to introduce to everyone from Hollamon. He is Executive
Vice President.
Executive Vice President at Epitec. Welcome, Tony.
Well, thank you again. I'm Tony Hollamon with Epitec. And Sharon said it's good to see all the diversity in the room. And I think everybody talked about what their careers were. It just reminds me of all the things that we look for at our organization from a contract staffing standpoint. From help desk to project management to security to application development, consulting. We deal with all those types of skill sets right now. So what I was hoping to do today is, yes, talk about contracting. I'm going to kind of ease into it, tell you a little bit about myself. I've been with Epitec come August, 27 years, and started off like most of the individuals that joined the organization, started off recruiting, and I had the two best teachers in the world, and I'm not just saying that because they're sitting Jerry and Josie kind of spent a lot of time with me, and you know, as a 23-year-old coming out of college, you think you know it all, but I found out that I knew very little. One, not just about technology, I didn't think I knew a whole lot about people, but just all the policies, procedures, you know, but I think more importantly, dealing with people, dealing with customers, dealing, more importantly, our assets, which were our employees and candidates. So when I get to the contract piece, and that is attraction, engagement, and then the most important is retention these days, because you all know you're all highly sought after. You could go out tomorrow, find the type of job that you want, at the money that you want to make, and in the city or state where you want to work. A little history with the BDPA. I think as a company, we've been involved with BDPA off and on for about 25, 26 years. So, and I'm surprised you don't coin this, but the BDPA pushed STEM before STEM was popular. They were in the neighborhoods and in the schools long before many of these organizations kind of coined the STEM phrase and jumped on the bandwagon. So hats off to BDPA for being that organization that started a long time ago, engaging our youth, engaging organizations to try to help them engage our youth. So myself, born and raised in Detroit. So, you know, made Detroit, imported, however you want to say it. Spent then high school years in Southfield, so I'm an old Blue Jay, so I don't know if any of you guys are from in and around Southfield. And then did my college career up at Central Michigan. I did a little postgraduate, but I got my degree in sales and marketing with a business law minor. And then since then, you know, we're big on education, whether that be on quality, whether that be innovation. So I've done the University of Michigan extended education and a few other things. So, and then just to tell you a little bit about what I like to do, I love to fish, even though I don't get a chance to do it all that often, but I'm an avid fisherman, and I've started to do a little fly fishing, which I love also, and my kids have since kind of grown up a little bit, but they like to fish while I make them go fishing with me. So, yeah. And then love to golf. Also, that's probably what I end up spending a little bit more of my time on. I put these pictures up because these are some of the events with some of the resource groups that we belong to, because we're part of the Ford family, so we support that organization. In addition to golf outings, we also support their Black History Month and a few other things. We're also part of the MMSDC here, so the Michigan Mineral Supplier Development Council. We support their outing. And then an organization that we recently became a part of, it's called the National Action Council for Minority Engineers. And they partner with NSB, the Black MBAs. I don't think there's a relationship with the BDPA, but we're now a corporate council member, which is a step below board membership. But that's a opportunity where we can get together with NACB and the BDPA, and maybe there's some things that we can do together. So we look forward to that. But that's one of their golf outings. So Epitec is an organization, based on the investment that the company will make, is very, very high on STEM-related initiatives. So we'll support these golf outings, these galas, the national conferences. So we're really, really looking forward to stepping back into working with the BDPA and seeing what we can do in support of it. Family. So I've got 3 children. We all like to travel. Took a trip last summer to out west to Yellowstone, and we did Jackson Hole. So I mean, in addition to the golfing and fishing, which fit nicely into that, we also love the city. So we love Toronto and Boston, and we love different parts of California. And so that's my family. Next shot, we'll show you my work family. So when I'm not home, these are the individuals that I have a tendency to spend a lot of time with. You've met Jerry and Josie back there, so see, you didn't have to come, but you came in. You're here live, so that's Jerry and Josie over to the left, and my wife there in the middle. And then my 2 peers, Mark and Rebecca. They too are highly active in organizations around the city. One of the STEM organizations that we're part of, that Sharon mentioned, Michigan Council of Women in Technology, so we put a lot of effort into that organization also. And Rebecca is actually the vice president of that organization, soon to be president going in next year. So, but these are my 2 families, and where I love to spend my time. It's an organization that I'm very proud of being a part of because of all the support that we get. So, kind of what makes all of that possible? My hobbies, the support of my family, is Epitec. Epitec's been around since March 8th of 1978. We just celebrated our 39th anniversary back in March, so we've been around for a very long time, very stable organization. We've got, I've told a few of you, we've got almost 1,000 employees throughout about 32 states, and we're tracking about $70 million this year. And again, as I kind of talk about the growth and the innovation that's going on within the industry, we are hopeful that Epitec as an organization, as almost a 40-year-old organization, will go from that $70 million to $100 to $125 million, just because of all the opportunity that we have as an organization, but we have also as individuals. So a little bit on the name for the organization. Prior to Epitec, we were actually known for 22 years as comprehensive data processing. So because of the name being a little bit dated and the advent of the internet and networking, it was time to kind of clean things up in reference to the name. So we came up with the name of Epitec, and ultimately the story behind that is, again, Jerry, since you're here, I got to point to you, but Jerry's mom would tell him that, boy, you should do twice as much listening as you do talking. So that was something that Jerry shared with me from day one, and something that we share with the organization, throughout a new employee's orientation, throughout them being a manager. So that's something that's actually even a corporate objective of ours this year, is listen to our customers. And our customers are our employees, our customers are our clients out in the field, our partners. So that's huge with us. So in trying to come up with a new name for the company, we actually looked at who was the first one on record to come up with that saying. And it ended up being a Greek philosopher by the name of Epictetus. So we vetted Epictetus to make sure he didn't kill a bunch of people or do something heinous, out there. So we ended up taking the epi piece from Epictetus, which also means higher level, and taking basically technology and merging the two to come up with Epitec. But our mission is to be a valued resource to our customers, employees, and partners, to build a company that will last by being a healthy and profitable organization that continues to grow. We are an award-winning organization. For 10 consecutive years, we've been a 101 best and brightest organizations to work for. It's gone from local, and for the last, I think, 3 years, we've also been awarded the national award for best practices. Best practices in communicating to our employees out in the field and internally, best practices for our investment in the community, best practices for a number of things, and it's gone nationally. We opened up an office 3 years ago in Dallas, and now we're starting to win that award down in Dallas. And the interesting thing about this award is basically what they do is they don't just survey the individuals inside our office. They survey all 950 of our employees randomly, and it gives those employees to basically objectively talk about what we've done as an organization. And we're rated, I think, on 10 to 15 different categories, and that's where they come up with some of the what they would call elite awards and national awards, for best practices, and Epitec's won several of those. Through the Michigan Chronicle, Jerry was awarded an Excellence Award last year, and then we also, and I don't have a slide for it, but through the certification organization that we go through, the MMSDC, we were named Minority Supplier of the Year for 3 years. In the last 3 years, we've been finalists for that award. And I just say that as an organization, we've got a lot of third parties, giving Epitec kudos on some of our practices as an organization. So it's just not me up here, kind of tooting our horn, but I am very, very proud of what we've done, and it's nice to be recognized by organizations as well as our employees on the things that we've done well. Some of the customers that we do business with, very, very proud of this list with the organizations, and this isn't a complete list, but I think it's the customers that you guys are probably pretty familiar with. Ford Motor Company we've been doing business with for over 30 years. I mentioned that some of you used to do business with the City of Detroit and Board of Education, which used to be kind of our flagship customers, but over time and some of the issues that the city and board have had, we've kind of moved on, but learned a lot from those organizations, and it's great to see the city rebounding and doing things to help themselves and be in the newspapers and on the news for the right reasons, and that's good growth. But again, a lot of business with Blue Cross Blue Shield and organizations like General Motors, and then some of our work that we have down in Dallas with Mary Kay and 7-Eleven. When I think about some of the best practices and some of the recognition, it all really comes down to our organization's values, and these are the principles that we live by, and these are items that Jerry and Josie had a lot to do with formulating and cascading that down and throughout the organization. So I look to our values as we look to make decisions, and ultimately what helps us grow. When everybody is associated with these in the office, and they know as long as they make decisions, within these guideposts, we're going to make the good decisions. Not to say that we don't make mistakes, but ultimately this is our guiding light right here. So on to what's going on in the whole contract staffing world. As I mentioned, as an organization, we've been around 39 years. When back in the day, there weren't thousands and thousands of contract organizations. As a matter of fact, Jerry worked for an organization. I think they've been absorbed by CompuWare, and CompuWare is no longer CompuWare, but ultimately, there were just a handful of organizations, and probably one or two black-owned organizations. Back 30, I was almost said the 40s, Jerry, but 40 years ago. It seems like the 40s. But ultimately, this area has grown from a handful of organizations to thousands of organizations across the country, and billions of dollars. And I'll go into some of that, right now in reference to how healthy and also how important the contract staffing industry is. So again, 60% of recruitment pros say the talent shortage is a major obstacle in 2017. I'll give you one example. Me, Ryan, and Mike, we were just in Grand Rapids last week. And Grand Rapids is a kind of like eco sub-economy in of itself. Typically doesn't deal or be affected by some of the same recessionary types of situations that Michigan as a state kind of goes through. But they have their number one issue is talent. Number two issue is diversity and inclusion. So as an organization, that provides talent, We're a Black-owned business, so we've got a lot of insight on how we might be able to help organizations like that. But this is a national issue. I don't want to say that it's even a global issue anymore, but it's become a national issue here in the United States, and it has been for a long time. So from a numbers standpoint, our business, staffing and recruiting contract business is a big business. Throughout the years, it's continued to go up, and I don't necessarily see it stopping, but for 2016, it topped out at about $150 billion. And what you'll notice in some of these downturns, these were recession times. But as you see, as we're coming out of the recession, and not that staffing is recession-proof, but some of Epitec's best years happened during and right after a lot of the recessions. So I mean, we have a tendency to be a safer business because as organizations, unfortunately, are laying people off. That's not great. But in many cases, what they'll do is they'll utilize contract staffing, variable staffing, to kind of plug the dam. And over the years, they've plugged that dam a lot in utilizing organizations like ourselves. So whether you're at FCA or General Motors or Ford or even small organizations, they're utilizing contract staffing to kind of fill the void, or in many cases, for technology that they just don't have or innovation that they don't understand, they'll use organizations like ourselves. This isn't going away. These are powerful, big numbers, and ultimately they're gonna continue to grow. So trends and risks. One of the things that will cause the continued growth, the continued revenue growth, and continued need for contract staffing, baby boomers. You know, I'm almost in that category at turning 50 this year. But just even talking to our largest customers, most who have pension programs know within the next 3 to 5 years, 40 to 50% of their staff is eligible, especially within their IT ranks, they're eligible to retire, to leave. So that's going to create a huge hole within a lot of these organizations, especially right here in Michigan and in the Midwest. We're dealing with the millennials. God bless them. I know some people have a hard time with how to manage them, how to engage them, but I mean, after the baby boomers, they're the next biggest demographic that we're going to have to deal with in reference to coming in from an innovation standpoint and running our businesses, running our IT departments, our accounting departments, finance departments, and we're going to have to work and make sure we work with them both on attraction, engagement, and retention. And then the other elephant in the room is the diversity and inclusion, or the DI scenarios. A lot of organizations talk about their employee base mirroring their customers. Most we find struggle with that. And their shareholders, the customers want that equality, but most organizations struggle. I mentioned Grand Rapids, but we've got an office down in Dallas. It's one that Dallas as a region is running into the same thing. You know, you may not notice or see it here in Detroit, but really the rest of the country struggles with diversity and inclusion, but they know the benefits of it mean additional dollars from a revenue standpoint and growth in reference to building up their staffs but also keeping their customer base. So diversity and inclusion is a huge challenge. Regulation is also going to be a big challenge for us in the IT and engineering world. You hear about what's going on with the existing administration. There's changes going on with new bills coming down in reference to buying American and hiring American. But in our world, I'm sure a lot of the facilities that you work with, you know, it might be 10%, it could be as high as 50% of for nationals that make up the departments or what have you. If things end up changing with the visas, that's going to adversely affect ultimately who we can bring in the country or keep in the country. And you may say, well, that creates additional jobs for the individuals here. Well, the big problem that we have is there's just not enough bodies in the IT and engineering ranks to fulfill the gap that the visa candidates fill. I mean, we've already got a gap. That's just going to increase the gap. Our worry, and we've seen this in the early 2000s, and that is the advent of outsourcing. So we don't have the people, we don't produce the people, and that's the importance of STEM. A lot more is going to end up going overseas, and truly this time, it's not about dollars and cents. It's just too many holes. It's a necessity. So you could start seeing organizations that utilize visa candidates end up going to the outsource model that normally wouldn't see that. And we're already seeing it a little bit even in healthcare, where from a security standpoint, that you'd never see that. And same thing with banking and finance. So that's a risk of ours. The other thing is when you start getting into healthcare reform, which could change, could end up helping us as businesses and individuals if there's modifications with healthcare reform. But again, we still have to deal with the politics of that. We have to deal with competition. I mentioned corporate purchasing because they're always looking to reduce the IT nut, if you will, in reference to expenditures. So we're dealing with that. And again, that's where outsourcing ends up coming in a little bit more. And then a direct threat to us are organizations called MSPs. Most of our large customers use these organizations. They want to write one check, so there will be a governing body basically that will end up working up through, and we do that with most of our customers. So good and bad there. And then I mentioned outsourcing, and then I don't necessarily see this as a threat. It's more of a trend, but whole social media. For us, yes, it makes it a lot easier for us to reach out to candidates, promote what we're looking for in reference to opportunities. But the flip side of it is it adds a component of speed and sometimes risk to how we normally recruit and deal with the quality, with this particular market. So those are some of the staffing trends and risks. Any questions on anything that I've said so far? Any comments? Oh, good. Okay.
Do any of these changes or regulations stand out to you as being more difficult than the others? Were there any that?
I would just say the political climate right now. And for those of you that work for companies, and even if you own your own businesses, there's still a lot of cash not being pushed out for innovation. Most of the jobs that we work, it's still a lot of maintenance. We got some customers that are doing things and pushing systems into the cloud and doing a lot of DevOps. Security is always top of mind and very important. But there's still a lot of old systems out there running that haven't caught up to consumer-facing types of systems. So still a lot of it. But because of the political climate, customers are holding on to their money. Still not spending as much as they can. The fear, though, is when they do, when the people don't exist, there lies a little bit of a problem. Cliff?
Now, what has Epitec done with you mentioned like a lot of legacy software,
Yep.
a lot of COBOL programming.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just reading that that's going to be critical, that a lot of these people who know COBOL have retired.
Right.
So what has Epitec found to put those people back into the field to help transfer those systems into the modern cloud or whatever?
I mean, good question. There's already a gap, as the baby boomers start to be in a position to leave. We've had a couple of customers approach us. So we're working with a few universities and schools that actually still teach COBOL, but to be honest with you, it's few and far between. We're dealing with candidates that have retired once already.
Right.
And some are on their second retirement and going back, and they're just kind of doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Luckily, with remote working and things like that, that gives us a little bit more time. But my fear is there's not enough schools continuing to teach COBOL. So I think that's going to be, and has been, to be perfectly honest with you, one of the outsourcing targets, for our customers. So again, if it's not confidential, a lot of it's going overseas. I see more foreign nationals have COBOL skills than I do, folks that, came up and developing and supporting legacy systems. So it's a lack of balance right now. So just a little bit of information, on the industry. So year over year, there's about 15 million people engaged for temporary and contract staffing. About 70% of that, of those individuals work full-time. And again, this is an aggregate number, so we're talking IT and engineering people, nurses that are contract, finance and accounting people, so not just IT on this one. And one of the benefits I think that our own employees feel is contracting is an inroad to getting a permanent job. And I would say probably 25 to 30% of the opportunities that we have will lead to a permanent job with our customers, because clients still like a way or a means of kind of kicking the tires, if you will, testing an individual out. But the same goes for the employee and the consultant. They too want to kind of not necessarily commit to a customer, so they like to kind of test the customer out. So we're finding kind of the same thing. As a matter of fact, of the 400 people that we hired last year, about not quite a third of those individuals were transitioned into our customers. So we see that as a benefit, because now we get a new customer and we get a chance to engage those folks, also for the long term. 9 out of 10 said staffing work made them more employable. So again, seeing a couple of different environments. I think there's an approach though to being a contractor or a consultant, and there's some tips that we can kind of share as an organization too, because the flip side of that is sometimes we have clients that say, hey, that person's jumped around a little bit. Maybe it's been every couple of years after they've finished a project. So there's still a little bit of a stigma with certain customers, some of our smaller ones, with contract employees that they can't maybe commit. But we see it differently. We see them getting experience, working on different things, and we see that as being able to offer some variety, some diversity of thought, working for different organizations. And then the third, we're offered permanent jobs by a client where they worked as on an assignment, and 2/3 of those accepted those offers of permanent employees. So again, contracting is definitely a way or a means to get a permanent job. A little bit more information, on staffing employees working virtually all occupations. And as I mentioned, the ones that we participate most heavily in would be the engineering and IT, so that's about 13%. That's only going to grow, and as automation continues to kind of take heart, with a lot of these companies. And then healthcare. Right now, that's a smaller percentage than I actually thought, just kind of given everything that's going on with not only baby boomers, but just people getting older, period. So this is going to grow considerably. But you still have in your industrial manufacturing the biggest amount or percentage of individuals on a contract basis. And right now in our industry, our customers are struggling because of liability. And I guess the other thing is because of lack of skilled trades. It's not a space that we play in, but you hear about mechanics, welders, and there being a significant gap and hole in those individuals, because again, we're dealing with the baby boomers that are starting to leave and retire, what have you. So that's gonna grow. And I know that there's a big push for trade schools and vocational and voc ed to help fulfill some of those gaps. And there's been a couple of things that we've attended, a couple of summits centered on and around not necessarily needing a 4-year degree, but going to voc ed and going to some type of training and getting a certificate, and how important that's going to be. But this is the kind of stuff that's ultimately going to affect all of us, because you need plumbers, you need mechanics, things that can't be outsourced, and that's going to create a great opportunity for organizations that can find those types of people. Drill down to Michigan a little bit. We were at a summit last week, so I took this stat or what have you. There's 100,000 jobs open in Michigan right now. Some of those are IT and engineering, but a lot of those are in hospitalities, as I mentioned, and some of the voc ed, and some of the trade skills, trade opportunities. And then from a staffing standpoint in Michigan, average number of temporary workers each week is 113,000. We employ about, just overall, about 500,000 people, a little over 500,000 people every year. This stat's going to look a little low because, again, it's on aggregate, so it's everybody within all staffing categories. But for IT and engineering, it's more like 65 to 70 on average in reference to salaries, and it's only going up because of the demand for people. So talk a little bit about my three main points for tonight: attraction, engagement, and retention. From an attraction standpoint, that's the fun part, is being able to engage you all tonight. We do similar things and we run into people, we network. We've got social media to work with in reference to pulling people in. It used to be the hard part, but just with a lot of these tools now, we have line of sight to thousands, tens of thousands, of people. Where the challenge starts to roll in is engagement. And I think as an organization, I don't want to say that we've cornered the market on it, but we're very successful at engagement. We've got about a 92% project completion rate with our employees, and I think a lot of that has to do with where we place our people, but also how we treat our people. So there are some things that we say we do better than others, and again, I mentioned the 10 consecutive years of winning the 101 best and brightest organizations to work for. But I mentioned our high completion rates, but this is huge, the on-site and off-site engagement. As an organization, I mentioned being profitable, and when we're profitable as an organization, we like to put the money back into the organization. So we spend a lot of that in making sure we go out and visit our employees. We have some employees that they're the only ones at the client and in a given state, but we do our best to make our way around to that individual. We also do a good job, I think, of creating resource groups. So sometimes those groups are started by the companies that they work for. In other cases, we create them. So if we're in a given state and we've got 40 people, we do our best to get those individuals together so that they act as a resource group. We also, I mentioned our onboarding and offboarding practices, have been deemed best practice. We do some things in the visa space, in some cases from our competitors. Not all of our competitors do that, so we end up getting a lot of individuals. That probably represents about 15-20% of our base of employees are foreign national descent. But we've got an in-house team that's responsible for making sure we dot our I's, cross our T's for those individuals. We have a great benefits program. I think very competitive wages. We got annual training and development initiatives for our folks in the field. And again, some of that happens with some of those resource groups that we put together, depending on the technology stack and innovation. And our program is an award-winning employee experience program. And then retention. So I know talent, we said, is one of the #1 issues that folks are dealing with from a customer base. But the retention piece is big. A lot of organizations, unfortunately, to keep people, don't have these resource groups to make sure that individuals, especially we relocate a lot of folks from Detroit to California to other places. And again, our goal is never to make that person feel like a person without a country. We never want them to feel like they're on an island. So we do things intentionally to engage those individuals. So that's part of our employee engagement process. But I hear all the time from our customers, especially in the diversity and inclusion space, they'll bring someone to Ford Motor Company or General Motors, and the individual ends up staying 6 months or a year. They don't feel that support is there for them. And one of our specialties, I would say, is creating that support for those individuals to make sure that they feel at home, they feel like they have a support group, they feel like Epitec's going to be responsible for helping develop them, and that was one of the #1 issues, that individuals feel that organizations don't necessarily support them. So some of the key reasons as to why individuals leave, their specific role is not what they had anticipated. It's 39% of the people. They don't like the company culture. They don't see a path for advancement, or they don't like their boss, or in some cases, they feel like they were misled on the job that was articulated to them, but then they go do the job and it changes. But in reference to addressing those issues, the big thing is the development of their people. But we've pinpointed, in all the reading that I've done from personal experience with our organization, the development piece is the most important. and in the contract staffing world, there are struggles, with that piece because what's the customer going to do? They only want to invest so much, in those resources or what have you. So we've had to get creative, with our employee experience. So it's not just about touch points. What is that? It's offering that training, it's offering that development, but it's also not being afraid if you're us as an organization to move the person. So, if it makes sense to move them somewhere else, why lose them? So I mean, we are cognizant of what that could do to our customer, but at the same time, that's our pledge to our employees, to our customer base, is to be there for them. And if that means, again, pushing them from one customer to the next, to hold on to them, to create some point of development, we're going to do that. And that's what we don't see a lot of organizations. And unfortunately, that's why our industry overall has a tendency to experience about 50 to 55% turnover rate from a nutrition standpoint, which is high, because when you're typically on assignment or on a permanent job, that turnover rate is closer to about 25%, so it's double. Big shot in the arm on how to address this. It's not going to happen overnight, but has to do with the STEM fields. For us in this room, kind of that next generation, and making sure that math and sciences are pushed throughout the schools, and those programs are funded, but also organizations like the BDPA. Very, very important to the future of not just contracting, but just the IT and engineering and the sciences world overall. So, so I'll take questions, but I just wanted to say, I really appreciate being able to address you guys, and looking forward to doing more with the organization and growing with you guys, and maybe even provide some opportunities to you. Well, thanks again.